Om Shanti. I see some new faces tonight. How many of you are here in person for the first time ever? Okay, welcome. And if your name is not on the email list, which we use exclusively to let you know what's going on every week, then after it's over this evening, we'll be happy to take your email. So how are you all? Going to talk about harmony and balance tonight. And we have a wonderful speaker. Many of you have heard Brother Erik before. Hello, Zoomers. I can't ignore my Zoomers. Hi, how are you? We get a much bigger crowd on Zoom often than in person, but hopefully as the weather gets a little milder, we'll have more people come like they used to in the old days. Do you remember days before Zoom? So how did you create harmony and balance during the COVID years? Anybody have any secrets to creating harmony when we had so much disharmony going on outside our windows? I did. I have a person I live with who is extremely upset with the world most of the time. And we have some rules in our house, which I've spoken about before. I really don't listen to the news. I'm on a need to know basis. That's it. I don't sit glued to the TV. And in our home, we started to cook together. We started to play a silly game called Rummy Cube to pass the time. We still do. It became something of a hobby and a habit. It's relaxing for him. But I didn't need the same kind of relaxation because around these parts, I've learned to create inner peace. Now, I'm not saying it's constant. I'm not saying it's always with me. So what we're going to talk about tonight are the pockets, the incidents when you lose your balance, like a little kid on a teeter-totter, you lose it. Why do you lose it? Why do you lose your harmony or create disharmony for someone else? What would be the primary reason, you think? You come into a group or a discussion with a person, you have an idea, and you know you're right. Where's that coming from? What? The ego. We know a lot about ego around here. So it comes from my idea. This is my way of thinking. How can I create harmony with someone who totally disagrees with me? Or how can I create disharmony? I don't want to talk too long. I tell you, I spent a lifetime creating disharmony. No, you're wrong. You're just wrong. My way is the right way. And sometimes we even get morally offended, right? So what I had to do is develop better listening skills, letting other people share their opinion, and really having an open mind. It's hard sometimes. And I find it's hardest when I don't have time to think. So these are just some of the ideas that I have. I don't want to speak too long because I know Brother Erik has a lovely program for it. But I know that I never realized how I can create disharmony because I never really cared, especially as a younger person. I never really cared about what the other person was thinking because I always had to prove myself right. And it's been so freeing. And I feel so much peace inside of me when I can step out of that old role. And I'm not saying it's 100%, but most of the time lately, I can step out, think before, and think of how will the other person feel if I speak. And instead of confronting someone, I can first of all honor what they're thinking. If I have you correctly, you're saying, validate what they're thinking, and then try very hard to create harmony. But I'm sure Brother Erik has prepared a lovely way to discuss all of these little pockets that we want to improve on. So without further ado, Brother Erik, will you come up and join us and speak to us this evening about perhaps even silence? I'm thinking how I don't always, someone told me, oh, is a complete sentence. That works very well sometimes too, instead of having a long dissertation. So I'll leave the dissertation to you.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome. I wanted to say a couple words before what happens next. We're going to watch a artist, great global. And it's going to be more tonight on the quality of balance. Okay. Harmony and balance is the theme for the month, but I thought focused on balance. So I'm going to seed your thinking as you watch this next video presentation. See if you can observe how you feel when you watch, and see if you can see yourself as the artist who is created also. You can understand it kind of back and forth in your mindset, and then just observe and keep that thought of balance in your mind. We'll have a little conversation, and I'll share something after that. If it's okay, we'll show the clip. It's an artist who's created, maybe you've seen it before, but it's about balance. Okay, a little louder, and we can take the top lights. So, something you can practice at home, maybe. Clean out some of your knives and forks and see what you can do. Had you seen that before? Were you aware of that? Quite amazing, actually. And so, how did you feel? What was your observations, both of that and yourself when you watched? Yeah, the microphone's there if you want. Anybody? Anything immediately? Just
Well, I mean, Lynn and I just did that at the pizzeria before we came over here. Just wanted to share that with everyone.
you just did what?
We just did that same exercise of balancing
Oh,
at the pizzeria
at the pizzeria.
across the street.
I see.
Just
Okay.
kidding. So, no, it reminded me of on one occasion in my life, I went on a nature hike, right, with an expert. And you had to be completely present to every single moment and every single step, just like she was.
Mhm.
And it elevates your consciousness. And when this hike was finished, as when she finished her exercise, the whole world looked different.
Okay. Great. A new world. Yes.
I noticed during the performance, she also used a lot of concentration.
Very much so.
I think, yes, she has balance, but it requires a very deep level of concentration and focus.
Mhm. So she was very much focused on what she was doing and how things kind of came together.
But also you have to be all the time watching your balance, because if one thing comes out, everything collapses.
Yeah,
Oh.
just the feather at the end.
It's just a feather and everything, boom.
Okay. It's like some of our lives, very tenuous.
You have to be all the time conscious. I
Okay.
mean, careful.
Others? Is there another hand that was that way? Okay. How did you feel? Was it stressful? Was it tenseful? Was it feeling long? Was it engaging? Were you aware of what was going on? Was there any, probably because it was a performance, a belief that it was going to work out okay? And so, was there a calmness or a stress? If those were your choices of watching that. Little stress?
Stress,
Well, stress.
tension.
Oh my God. Okay, interesting with that. Because the intent of that is something that we could all see and share. And one of the things that strikes me about balance and what this kind of illustrates is that each of those pieces was moving. Okay, so it wasn't a static kind of an energy, but they were, did you see how they were rotating and they were kind of on, but there was motion involved with that. And I want to bring that out kind of in this concept of harmony and balance, because our lives are like that. Okay. So when we say, oh, you should be a little more balanced in your life, it doesn't mean to be stagnant. It doesn't mean to be, without any kind of activity. And there's lots of different ways to look at that. But this one kind of illustrates that we are alive and that we are moving, and there's moving parts inside of us and around us, and all those things kind of come together. But it still can be kind of soft. It can still be in that sense, the pieces come together even though there's motion, even though there's activity, even though there's kind of what's going to happen feeling, that it can all work out. And no matter what the pieces are, they were distinct and they were unique, but they came together. And so in that sense, balance, I want you to play with that idea. Is it kind of something that I'm going to just balance and have it be set? But there's motion in that also. And that's necessary. That's to be expected. That there's going to be some things happening around us. But in that sense, how can we be the one who's focused, one who's concentrating, one who everything is moving around? What I found interesting was she was very kind of in the center of all the activities, and things were happening because of her and around her. But she was very concentrated on her purpose, her focus, or the point of what she's doing. And the other element that I want to just highlight with that is that each of those, they almost look like dinosaur bones to me, but I'm not sure what they actually were. But they only touched each other in one place. And so that there was this connection and relationship between each of those elements. But each of those elements was unique and distinct and had a small connection to the others. And we have a lot of small connections. We have a lot of different connections that we have to maintain. I don't know exactly who you're connected to and how you are, but I have a lot of point connections. I'll talk to this person about this thing, and pretty much only that thing. I'll talk to this person about this kind of category, and I'll interact with this person in another way, and I'll smile at someone, and that's the only connection I'll have with that person. Okay, it's, you know, different people, different ways. And so there's a lot of connections that we have. And when we recognize that we do have these interactions, we can bring out that balance of our energies and where it goes. Now, the person I say hello to, I don't know his name, don't know much about, but we're in the neighborhood, so we acknowledge each other. And that's kind of our point of connection. That's our point where we are deciding how much energy we're going to put into that relationship, and we're fine with that. So we kind of balance out where our energy is going to go, because when I walk by this individual, actually there's a couple of them on the way home. Hello, how are you? It's that sense that this is the relationship that I want to create. And I'm not going to let go of the fact that I'm coming here or I'm going home or I'm such, but that doesn't stop me from behaving in the way that I want to. And that my point, my focus, my concentration is on that sense of I am going to go somewhere, but why not enjoy the process also? Does that make some sense? That I don't get stuck in, you know, oh, here's this person now I'm kind of trapped with this. It's like, no, this is their point of connection. This is how it's going to be. But let me continue on. So want to see if that makes some sense, that we have a lot of points of connection, have moving parts. But if we're focused and stable, everything moves around us. And so we're in balance. Even though there's a lot of things happening on, if I forget what I'm doing, I will stop this and then I'll say, oh, I'm late. And then I'll rush here and then I'll do a bad job this because I'm rushing. And then something's, have you ever, you know, the difference between those ways of living your life? Kind of knowing what you're doing and focusing on that and handling it, or kind of getting caught or lost or preoccupied or forgetful. And then you're rushing through the day, and it's a different feeling while you're doing it. And it's a different feeling at the end. How am I doing things? What am I doing? What is my actions when I'm balanced creating? And we've been offering that sense that there's a connection between harmony, feeling of harmonious, that things are in order when we're balanced. A couple other items that are not only connected to that. But there's a sense that you can only balance something in relationship to something else. And what I might mean by that is show and tell. I don't know if you can see it. It's a black phone. Now I've set that down. Would you call that balanced? Well, look at that. Okay. Little drum roll there. So again, it's more of a, I've set that down. Okay. But if I tried to do this, and I'm not going to be able to do it. But if I stood it up on end, if I was able to stand it up on end, flowers come in handy sometimes. What's the difference between those two? When I set it down flat, it doesn't seem like it takes any energy to balance it. We wouldn't ever describe it as putting our phone down as, oh, you've balanced that very well on the table. But when I would stand it up in a precarious situation, it's more, has that quality of being balanced. You see the difference of those? Does that make sense? And that awareness? And so when we balance something, it's in relationship to something else. Okay, I balance this phone with the help of the flowers. Flowers I'm gonna have to get rid of after this. They're not doing their job. But I've balanced the phone in relationship to the table. And so balance is not something that's done individually. There's a relationship. There's kind of a pairing, if you want to put it that way. And we talk a lot about here of balancing things. One of the big ones is love and law. Okay. We've got something going on. We're okay. And so those two elements, if you only have one, you're not balancing anything. If all you did was give people rules, this is the rule, this is what you have to do, you'd be more like a police or something like that. But that's not balanced with anything. And so if you're in a relationship with someone, like kids, you have to always balance those two dynamics. You know, when are you strict and when are you caring or loving? And you can try to be both, but sometimes you kind of move into one category and out of another one. Sometimes you're, oh yeah, it's okay, I'll forgive you this time. A little more loving. And other times it's, no, you have to go to bed. This is it. You didn't do. But I have to be more loveful. And so that's a balance that we talk about here. Pairs. How do we do things? What is the pairing of the situation that I'm in? And when we recognize that we've got pairs and we've got duality in a variety of ways, that's what we're also trying to balance here. What is the sense of I need to do something and I have to accomplish something, but how can I also accomplish that in a way that is not going to be hurtful? And so that love and law is a pair of qualities, a relationship that we have to balance. If you only have one, you're not going to balance anything. That's just what you're going to be. That's just how you're going to do it. But there's a lot of different qualities. Another one that we talk about here is loving and detached. Okay, a little light. Very good. Okay. And in that sense, how can you be in a certain way loving, but also not get too caught up in such? And this is a big problem in relationships. Okay. Sometimes people are too attached. They can't do without. And so that they're not balanced. There's always, I need, you know, I need your attention. I need, look at me, look at this, however it's going to be. Or I have to give to you, I have to give to you, I have to give to you, you know, you need the attention, you need this. But that sense of how can I also be clear with myself on what my needs are. Okay. And I'm hoping you all are thinking of some of your past experiences on that type of a balance. And we've got good qualities and we've got two, but any one too much can be a problem. You know anybody who's ever been too loving? Yeah, maybe it's been you, maybe it's been somebody else, maybe you've watched a soap opera or something, but they are only able to give, they're only able to offer, they don't know how to manage their own energies. And oftentimes, what happens if someone becomes that over a long time? They only give, they don't feel like they're receiving, they become resentful. You know, anybody who's has that, I did so much, I do these things, all these things, why aren't I getting something? And so that's not much in the way of harmonious activities. It's not much in the way of that being balanced. There's that sense that if we can recognize, as we saw that individual, that she was focused, she was concentrated, she knew what she was trying to do with that. And so she kind of stayed to that point. And in that sense of having that point, whatever else was going on, she allowed to be a part of her activities, but she didn't let go of that. And when we're in that sense of what is my point? What is my focus? What is my purpose? Then everything else will kind of fit around that. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping that kind of comes to your mind. You've had an answer, maybe, maybe not. But what is your purpose? How does that work out for you? Because if you don't have a goal, a purpose, an aim, a direction, however you want to call it right now, for yourself, for the day even, let's talk about just the day. It's possible that you aren't going to do what you want to do. And, you know, Saturdays can be like that sometimes. I don't know just how it is for some people. I've got a brother who's retired, and, you know, every day's a Saturday. He doesn't have much going on, and it's kind of just goes through it. We share a comment about being retired. And retirement for some people is, I don't know what I do all day, but it takes me all day to do it. Okay. And just kind of this and a little of this and such. And that's fine. But if you really want to, you know, do this and this and this, it takes a little more focus on that. And so balancing out everything around us when we are clear, purposeful, it makes that a little more productive, if you want to put it that way. It makes it a little easier. And for me, it would be a little more less stressful. If I know what I'm doing, if I'm following up on that, then I'm not making decisions which sometimes take a lot of time. What should I do? Should I do this? Should I do this? I make a decision, I have that, and I get through the task, the days, and I feel good, both during the process and at the end of that. And that sense of being purposeful and focused brings that balance, and then brings subsequent quality. And I guess because it was a little stressful, is she going to do it? What's going to happen? But at the end, how did you feel when it was complete, before she took the feather off? Satisfied? Happy? You know, relief? Okay. Is there?
I felt great joy.
Did she accomplish that?
Yes,
Did
it
that?
was exciting in me. I could
Yeah.
feel
Okay.
the joy.
Yeah. 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 And want to bring in another image for you about this. And that image is clock. We used to have a clock there. We have a clock there, but not an digital clock, but a pendulum clock. How many of you have had one of those in your household at some time? Do you have any? How many of you have a grandfather clock or grandmother clock or wall clock, pendulum? Okay. Yeah. Okay. How many of you have seen something like that? And if you were here a little earlier, we had a meditation on the swing. Okay. It moves. It has that energy. And it is very methodical. But if you did a mathematical kind of summation of its location, over here and over here and over here and over here, and you captured all of those positions and kind of figured out where the average was, or what that would be. Like if you divided it by 2, all those positions, where would it be? You know, understand the question? It's over here, and then it goes over here. If you kind of averaged out its location, where would it be? At the center, right? And if it wasn't moving, where would it be? At the center. And I want you to think about that. If you don't do anything, you're going to be balanced. Harmony tends to have a relationship, so it's not very harmonious. It's kind of like one note. Okay. But if you recognize that it's the same balance, even though there's motion in a pendulum clock, it's still going to be balanced, but it is not static. It's moving back, it's moving over, you know, and that sense that we are alive, we are moving, but we can still be balanced because there's something about that clock that pulls us back to center, but we have momentum and so it goes, and that's just the way that one works. But it's okay not to always feel that you are centered. But it's important to know how to kind of come back to that. Does that make some sense? Okay, I get caught up in something. I'm like, wait a minute, let me kind of come back and reclaim a place of clarity. And that's a big part of the meditation. Being able to know that you're focusing on something. Here's a task. I've got to cook. I've got to pick somebody up. I've got to do this. I got to do this. But at the same time, how can I bring myself back, center myself so that I'm not too far off, not lost? And the question is, one of the questions you can ask is, what am I thinking about at this time? Am I so lost in my task that I've forgotten how I want to do that? How I want to be? Can I ask that question for myself? I want to act in a certain way. I want to be a certain way, but I've got to do these different things. Is there a place that I have practiced experiencing, being at, so that when I get pulled in one direction, I can easily pull myself back to center, feel that stability, purpose, clarity, and then do the next thing, whatever it is over here. Maybe I have to do something here. Well, let me kind of come back to center. Let me then do what I have to, because the example of tennis comes to mind. How many of you watch tennis? How many of you play tennis? How many of you did tennis today? Nobody. Yeah, did you? Okay, good for you. If you watch the really good ones versus the really bad ones, the good ones can hit the shot where the other player is not. And so what does the other player have to do? He has to run over there. And when he hits the ball back, the good player will hit it where the other player's not. And so a bad player is running back and forth all the time. Does that make sense? Where a good player is kind of in the center. So he can go here and come back, or go here and come back. So he's kind of managing the whole place, where a less good player is running around all the time. Who saves their energy? Who is clear? who is going to usually manage the game so that they are successful? The one who kind of comes back to center. The one who isn't over here and then has to go over here. It's kind of exciting to watch them, but you know, the really good ones just are a step away from their next shot. But then, you know, the really good ones play the really good ones, and then they have to move around some. Does that make sense? If you're does that work for pickleball? Does anybody pickleball? Maybe there's less running around. Tai Chi. Okay. Okay. So comment about Tai Chi, expression of energy and coming back. And so we've got that. Yeah.
Yeah. To answer your pickleball question, I have someone in my family who played tennis and was taking lessons for 4 years, switched to pickleball and applies all of the tennis strategy to the pickleball.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a book called Inner Tennis that's really about the
Inner Tennis.
psychology of it that you've been talking about.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't played tennis in a long time, and I tend to eat pickles rather than get them around the court. So just personal update for that. But that sense of the pendulum is also another nice picture for us to hold on to, because we're alive, we're moving, and when we do something, something else happens. And so that kind of brings us into that concept that if I'm clear on my purpose, if I have this sense of a place where I can focus, things are going to happen around me. But I know that when I do something, something else happens. There's a return, there's a reaction, there's a response. And so when we are moving around, when we have a center, beginning of harmony, and we are able to balance, then what I have found is it allows me to make appropriate, beneficial, accurate choices. And then I don't have to get caught up in thinking about those again. Have you ever made a decision? Have you ever done something and you're not clear, you're not focused, you're not centered, you're not stable, and all of a sudden you do something and that causes something else to happen, and then something else happens after that, and then what you were doing is long gone. Now you have to deal with all sorts of other things because of what you've done. So if we're able to recognize the energy of the pendulum, it goes one way and it's going to come back in another way. It's the energy that we put out is going to come back to us, that there is a response to that. And so how do I allow myself to be in a place of clarity, balance, purposeful, and purposeful doesn't mean what I want to accomplish necessarily in the world, but it's more, my purpose is what do I want to accomplish and how do I want to be when I do that? When I have that quality and that focus and that awareness, then I'm able to make the decisions that's going to be satisfactory. I do the next thing. There's a comment that was made one time about people at work. I don't know if you've ever been in offices and things like this, but shouting and slamming doors is not productive work. Does that make any sense to you? It's sometimes something happens and people spend all their time talking about it, getting angry about it, and it is not well received. It is not something that people appreciate, but it's very common. That something happens and people spend a lot of time talking about it, trying to figure out what it is, as opposed to doing something, recognizing what you've done, and then moving on. Okay, I did this. This is what happens. Let me deal with the next thing. instead of having all sorts of other things kind of explode all around us. So part of tonight for balance is I wanted to leave you with a few pictures. The dinosaur bones and the feather kind of being balanced around, and the pendulum, so that you can start to see that you are a part of a bigger connection, bigger affiliation of all sorts of different things. And that you're able to know that when you are stable and clear and focused, it's things around you are going to be focused and connected to you, rather than you having to run around to all of those elements. And also that pendulum, when we think of that, that we are in motion and we're going to go from side to side, but that doesn't mean that we are lost. We're going to come back to a center. We're going to come back to a place that I hope you have all been starting to practice reaching. How can I capture my thoughts? How can I focus my thoughts? How can I choose to see myself in a contented, harmonious, peaceful, calm state? And how can I practice being that way so that when I feel that I am a little out of sync, I can come back to that place, get some clarity, get some focus, and get ready for whatever's coming up next. There are pairs, there's relationships, there's a lot of things that we might talk about, but I want to open up the mic and see if there's someone here or online that would want to
Yeah,
offer something.
thank you. Thank you. I have a lovely comment from Sherry on Zoom I'd
Sure.
like to read. If you know Sherry, if you're ever on Zoom, she is a musician and a very talented person. While the left hand plays the harmony on a piano, the right hand is playing a melody with some rhythms perhaps in both hands, but holding the song together in its form with balance, harmony, beauty, and maybe even some dissonance, a little tension, but not enough to see the song fall apart. The balance maintains through the high notes, low notes, soft and loud until the end. Isn't that beautiful?
Nice.
Yeah,
Thank you,
beautiful.
Sherry.
Thank you, Sharon.
Appreciate that.
Anyone have a final comment?
Some
Brother
thoughts.
Erik?
What struck you tonight? Kind of a variety of pictures and words, and maybe some ideas. So what's going to stay with you? Close to the mouth.
Oh, I thought I introduced myself already. I'm sorry. My
Sure.
name is Marie.
Marie, great.
Yeah, that's the first time I'm here tonight.
Welcome,
And
Marie.
I'm very happy to be among you.
Great.
I think of balance when you are driving, because no matter if you make a left or right turn, at the end of the day, you have to come back at the center.
Okay.
Yes,
Nice.
that's what I wanted to share.
You're not balancing something in your hand and driving with your knee or anything like that. That's
Anyone else?
others.
Anybody on Zoom who'd like to unmute? Can they do that?
I think they're unmuted.
Okay, anyone on Zoom who wants to chime in?
You got two hands.
Meanwhile, we have two hands here.
My name is Jennifer, and what was so beautiful about the video was the concept of, wow, imagine if I could be that present to my own life and my relationship to every single person around me and everything that needs to be done. And if I could just do it with that kind of quiet precision, I could then observe harmony in my own environment and life. So that's what I wish to take with me.
Okay. Yeah, it'll come back. Go ahead.
My name is Lynn. It just seems like well, watching what she did was on so many levels. It was like a great Tai Chi master. And it was art and so many different things. I noticed there was a braiding of some of the pieces of wood or bones, whatever they were. They braided, they kind of wove, if you took a careful look. So that's represented to me a lot of the weavings, people and events in our lives. But it keeps on coming home to me that it's a combination. If you want to have peace and harmony and it's good feelings, good vibrations during the day and whatever at night. It has to come back to our own intentionality, our own evolution. Where we want to be. And it's just a fine tuning of our awareness. And as you said, it's usually if the intentions are good, or the good tidings, so to speak, it can really mold the other variables, environment, the other people, the other factors, the relations.
Nice. Okay, thank you.
I just want to bring it down to, I always try to tie in the real nuts and bolts of how we respond and react. Was anyone afraid that the audience would upset her? Like we had a few little outbursts. No, you knew she was centered, right?
The way they cheered and clapped, it just seemed so out of place to what was really going on. But
Yeah.
no, well, she didn't let it affect her.
Yeah,
I think she was,
it was on a contest type of a show or whatever, but I'm assuming. Yeah.
do you feel she was worried that she couldn't do it? Do you think during practice, oh my goodness, I'm too tired. I'll do this tomorrow. You know, how we sabotage ourselves sometimes, right? That kind of thing. You wanted to say something?
I also was fascinated by the fact that she put all herself in what she was doing. I think her mind, her body, her soul. I could see it. And also, I'm amazed at how she uses every part of herself to do the connection. She uses her feet. And then I was like, oh,
Yeah,
almost
very
like
good.
if it was me. She used her hands. She used her head.
Okay, yeah.
She used every part of her body. Works together to accomplish what she was supposed to accomplish. So that had put in my mind how in our daily life, sometimes we focus on only one part of the body to try to accomplish something, whereas we have our whole self to make use of. Our hands, our brain, our head. So that was very touching.
That's we've got extra coat hangers here. I'm just seeing us, they give everybody a coat hanger and see if you could pick one up and hang them and see how many we
Yeah.
could do. We'll do a workshop later on that.
One final question I have. Am I the only one here, including Zoomers, who knew that the minute that feather was taken away, it was all going to collapse? Did anybody think of that?
No. She pulled the feather off and
And
that
it
was
collapsed.
balance.
It was that state of perfection represented by the most delicate, weightless, apparently thing in the whole thing. It was just, that's when I felt the joy, Yeah.
Yeah.
Very opinionated. And I think also with the feathers, that shows, adding to your point, that shows how much sometimes it's the littlest thing that is important, to hold on to everything. We might take for granted what's very tiny, when in fact, this is the piece that connect the puzzle.
Yeah.
And then we have to be patient if we're perfectionists, we don't get annoyed with people who aren't. So there's your relationship glitch. Okay.
What I would like to do, if it's okay now, is just to see if we might take a moment to see if we can create that place, center, focus, and just kind of encourage ourselves to practice having a thought that takes us to a place that removes us from everything else around us, kind of a center, place of peace, however you want to do that. So if it's okay, before we
I have a
start,
few very brief announcements. Would you like me to hold it until after?
Sure.
Because people may leave.
no, no one's gonna.
Okay, no one's gonna leave.
We lock
Don't
the
leave.
doors. They're not
Zoomers.
going anywhere. Take a deep breath. And sit comfortably. I hope you're relatively comfortable. We've patted the pews. But now bring back to your mind the sense of interaction of the sticks and the balance. See yourself holding many different facets, dimensions, elements of your life. Variety of thoughts are spinning around your mind. Almost like the thoughts have energy, like the comets, they come into your mind and they fly out, something else comes in. You're the center of your life. And you are creating these thoughts, you are observing your thoughts. Now hold the thoughts, pick up that piece, put it in your stack, gently, carefully. The thought that my nature is peace. I see myself stable, balanced in that sense of peace. And as the thoughts come and fly around, choose another thought, holding on to those elements of your life that are all around you that demand your attention. That I am calm. My mind is now very clear. I am experiencing the energies of my life in the world, but I'm able to balance myself, find my center, come back to this place. Clarity, harmony, peace, balance. Coming, you find your center regularly and live a life of harmony and balance.
And thank you, Brother Eric, for always coming up with creatively genius things to share with us. I always walk out better than I came in. Thank you. I just want to very briefly, next week we have Brother Tony, who is going to talk about equity and contentment, bringing our emotions and perceptions when they come together in a way that is cohesive. So join us next week, and Zoomers also. On Sunday, we have the Meditation for World Peace, which is in person, I believe only in person, and it's 6:30 to 7:30 right here. So that's lovely. If you've never experienced that, come join us. And lastly, we have in Levittown every Saturday morning from 10 to 11:15, we have a Raj Yoga, which is the yoga we practice, which Brother Eric demonstrated just now. And we do that in Levittown every Saturday morning. We'd like you to RSVP by phone if you'd like to join us in Levittown. And that's it. So thank you for coming. Hope you had a lovely Mother's Day. Yes. A public program?